Today on Property Investment Blueprint podcast, I am here with Dr. Daniel Moses. A few years ago, Daniel was a taxi driver working over 60 hours a week. Daniel defied all odds and started his property investment journey from little of his own money to building a multi-million pound property empire. He is an author of Amazon best-selling book, Rent to Rent Made Easy, work and also joint venture with scores of investors to help them with their property investment journey. Daniel has his own property investment training company, podcast, YouTube channel, and property investment meetup sessions. Daniel has been featured in various newspapers and magazines, The Guardian's, HMO UK, Yahoo Finance, CNBC News, Fox, the list goes on. So Daniel has been awarded a doctorate as well. Congratulations, bro. Really proud of you doing that. Right. And he's been recently interviewed by one of the biggest television channels in Nigeria, Channel TV. I love your tenacity, energy, and the mission you have embarked on. Welcome to Property Investment Blueprint Podcast.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rahim. I'm deeply humbled to be here. And it just feels exciting as well because I run a podcast where I've been interviewing a lot of people, and you interviewing me, and we're going to have a great conversation today. It's also very exciting. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and I'm looking forward to deep dive into giving a lot of values and motivating and inspiring so many other people.
Fantastic. Thanks, Daniel. I don't know if I can call you a doctor or if I can call you Daniel, but whatever you want me to call you, I will call you, bro. You absolutely deserve the title. So I'm really well done. And thank you for actually taking your time to actually sit with us today. We really appreciate it. And I know my audience would also love to hear a lot about your property investment journey. Fantastic. So the story isn't good unless people know where you came from and how you started your property investment journey. So I'd like you to tell our audience how you really started and scale your property investment journey to £1 million property portfolio.
Well, actually, the portfolio is growing now, and we're just like shy over 7 million.
Well done.
Yeah. So for me, the journey actually started. For me, I think I always want to go a bit backwards to kind of come forward. So my journey basically has started, in 2004 when I first immigrated to this country, the United Kingdom. It started from, the days of my humble beginnings, the days where I first came into this country. I had no papers, I had no immigration status. I had no massive, friends, in the UK. I basically, first came to this country just in search of a greener pasture, because I was just sick and tired of the economy, the status quo that portrayed itself, or in Nigeria, to be precise, where I was from. I went to University of Benin, Nigeria, and I wanted to just escape out of that sort of life where nothing was sure, nothing was. Whatever that was in front of me, there was no sort of direction on where I could go, or who I become. So I literally took that bull by the horn by myself, and I decided to relocate, in 2004. Came to this country first on a visiting visa, and gradually worked my way through, got married, settled down, and went through the usual ups and downs. But funny enough, this success or this greatness or good things I was looking for in life did not actually show up until, I took the biggest blow of my life in 2015, losing over £150,000 in my business in Nigeria. Wow. But before actually that challenges did happen, I first came into this country and I tried to make ends meet, try to live a normal life, try to be a good person. I went through a series of episodes of challenges, massive roller coaster. But again, if I was to dip into all those massive roller coaster, we're going to be here for over the next maybe 100 hours, trying to dip into each story. But I think I'll stick with the Uber story for now. Right. So for me, and that was just a little bit of my story there. But in 2012, I got fed up of England. I got sick and tired because nothing was working for me. Everything that happened in my life just seemed to be massive roller coaster, challenges after challenge, challenges after challenges. And I just got tired. And I woke up one morning, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to relocate back to Nigeria.
Wow.
I think I'm going to go and try Nigeria because I've been here since 2004, back and forth, back and forth, 1 minute in England, 1 minute in Nigeria. It's not working for me. I'm sick and tired. And I remember relocating back to Nigeria. I went back to Nigeria, got to Nigeria, started in oil and gas, got myself help through friends that were also already in that industry. And very, very quickly, my business started to really flourish really, really well. So we went to owning multiple trucks, carrying petroleum products, kerosene, diesel, and all these different products from from the depot to the end user, to the petrol station, supplying these products for people to buy. And that went really well. And I started to really live a good life, was able to at least go to a holiday once in a while. But very, very quickly, the challenges of having to travel every 3 months started to portray itself because 3 months I'm in Nigeria, 1 month I'm back to England, 3 months I'm in Nigeria, 1 month I'm back in Nigeria. And that also started to have its own toll on my business in Nigeria. And people owing me money, not paying in time. Obviously, the African market is not a very easy, straightforward market. Yeah. And I remember in 2015, 2 of my actual trucks carrying petroleum products burst into flames. And, the only luck we had was nobody died, but burst into flames, crashed, had a massive accident, losing the product, losing the actual trucks in itself to the value of £150,000. And I went into anxiety, I went into depression, and I'm like, what is going on? I tried to make ends meet in the UK for a number of years, nothing worked. Tried to make ends work now, but nothing works. Maybe entrepreneurship wasn't for me. Maybe this journey of becoming successful wasn't for me because this was something I did for just 2-3 years and it really blossomed. Unlike now, whatever I'm doing now, I've done it for the last 6, coming up to 7 years. And again, it just goes to show to you that there has to be storm. There has to be massive, massive storm before there becomes a dry weather. Planes will take off and go through turbulences, but at some time become, a stability in the sky. So for me, I went through those massive different types of turbulences where, I after losing that money, I relocated back to the UK and I basically started a new job now, not even seeking to be an entrepreneur, as a delivery driver with Yodel and Amazon. And from there, I transitioned into becoming an Uber driver. Now, my story about being an Uber driver was quite a very interesting one. Also, while being a delivery driver, because at this point in my life, I did have some good success. I built a great business already, but coming down that low at that point in time, because I felt that was low. That's for me. I felt like I had some success, and all of a sudden now I'm driving people. I'm making £5, £7, £8, £10, per drop, and I'm like, is this what my life is going to be now? So I think that started to also open up a few things in my life, and that I maybe need to search, maybe I need to pray, and maybe I need to give God what belongs to God and stuff like that. And that was just a little bit of inception about my story. And during this time as well, I was driving an average of, I know you mentioned 60 hours a week. It's actually more. I was doing about 100 hours to 150 hours. So what does that mean for a man like me who had 2 children and a wife? It means I was never at home. And it was driving over 18 hours a day, then coming back home to sleep and back again. I was literally sleeping for like 6 hours a day because I had built a set of lifestyle for myself. I had a good business going on that went bad and eventually leading me to a place where I lost everything and I had to bounce back with everything that I had. So that was just that little bit of a story there of my immigrating, my challenges, and now obviously choosing property, which eventually happened in 2016, late 2016, and into, what God has not given to us that we're now using to impact the life of many and also create massive success for ourselves.
Wow, that is truly inspiring. I don't even know where to start, to be honest. You explaining it to me, giving me goosebumps, because I relate to most of the things that you're saying. As you can tell from my accent as well, I'm from Africa. I was born in Africa, migrated in this country as a minor, get dumped in a foster care home. So I really relate when you come to these countries, how you try to integrate, try to make yourself belong to part of the society, and you end up losing lots of your self-esteem or your kind of belief, because you want to be part of the society that doesn't really embrace you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really, really relate to that, because I end up doing things that I'm not proud of, saying it in the media, etc., etc. but you are absolutely right, and I really relate to that, because I came here as well. I struggled to actually get my papers as well. So when you talked about papers, that literally draws me into what you're saying, because it really get me into a level where I went to a depressed mode. I wasn't talking to anybody else. I just don't know what was happening. I thought God hated me, by the way, and that's what I thought. I consider even changing my name at some point, because I was thinking maybe it's because of my name. That's the reason I'm not getting what I want to get. So that's the level I was at, But managed to go to university, finished, had an accounting and finance degree, thinking, okay, life would be easy, but hey, I ended up working ridiculous long hours, and things were not happening for me. And I really struggled, to be honest. And I had to say, is this all what life is about? I said to myself, there's something out there that could really be better than this. And then I started looking at properties, etc., etc. I think I also started about the same time as you. I started about, I think, 2016, 2017. Then I went full-time into property. So I really relate to that. Looking back then, what really triggered you? There's so many business opportunities. You've been to the oil industry. You've done so many stuff. But what really draws you into property for you to say, what, property is my thing. This is the thing I want to really exploit and actually take advantage of.
I mean, first of all, I want to, I'm a very religious person. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I think for me, I think God has if probably maybe you read my book, or other people have read my book, my journey into property actually came by revelation. I remember on that particular day, I was coming from Stansted Airport. I fell asleep on the motorway, and I decided to pull over to park and sleep, because I was drained, I was run out. And I remember on that sleep, on that very short nap, I remember having a dream. And I was basically in different halls where people were talking about properties, I'm looking at what people are doing. And I remember jumping up away from that sleep, and basically it's like, wow, and I started scrolling through my phone as soon as I woke up. And whilst I was scrolling through my phone, and I saw an ad saying, come to property event, and, talking about how to get started in property. But it was a £70 networking event that I needed to pay. And I remember having just £70 left on my credit card. And at that time, my credit was very, very bad. So my credit limit was just less than £150, if I'm very correct on that actual limit, because I can never forget. And I had £70 left. And the £70 left that I had in that card was what I needed to use to buy diesel, for my following, week, hustle as an Uber driver. And this was I think this was a Tuesday, this was a Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember what day it was now, because Uber normally pays us on a Friday. So it was the last money I had that I needed to use to top up my diesel on Thursday. And this happened, and I used that money. I said, you know what, I'm going to just do whatever I take. And I used that money and to literally go to that event. And I remember when I got to the event, I was the only Black man. I was only the person of color. Absolutely. And I'm like, I felt awkward. I felt, in fact, because I was always somebody that never had, white friends, Black, Asian friends. I was always very, around my Nigerian community. Mm-hmm. You know how it is when you're an ethnic minority. You're always in that safe zone. You're always playing safe. Yeah. And everybody in that community, the only work that you will see people doing, the highest you can actually see people doing is maybe they own a shop on the high street and they're selling African food and selling African stuff. And it's just like that. So I go into this room and everyone else was different from me. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a leap of faith. Let me just listen. Let me learn. And eventually what ended up happening was the guys went into it, started talking. I'm like, this is too real to be true. Yeah. Anyways, cut long story short, I said, I'm going to try and do it. And I eventually went, for a 3-day seminar that they had ongoing. And after that time, I remember coming back home, talking to a few of my friends. Oh, look, I'm going to become a property investor. I'm going to do this. And everyone that I spoke to basically discouraged me. But I said, this is the reason why I think this time, this is what God has actually proposed to me, because it didn't happen just because it happened because Daniel Moses was Daniel Moses. It happened because there's been a thought process through this by me dreaming about it and stuff like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. And obviously God for me, that God factor in it. So I said I was going to do it regardless of whatever happens. And cut long story short, since 2016, I went to seminars after seminars, training after training, programs after programs. And I remember in 2017, I did my first deal sourcing deal, then my second deal. And officially in 2017, November the 3rd, I registered my first property company. And by, just coming up to a year, 2018, I managed to quit my job as an Uber driver, and I've never looked back. So for me, what made me go into property? I just found myself in it because I saw it in a dream, and I took faith, and it happened. And that's just for me how I got into property. There wasn't like I was already thinking I was going to become a very successful, rich property investor or creating an empire, building wealth. No, I got into it, and the vision got clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And here we are, 6 years down the line of a journey that I can't even explain.
Wow. Like Daniel, it's like you are telling my own story. When I hear what you're saying, it's so similar to the way I started as well, to be honest with you. The only difference is I was working as an accountant, and I was doing ridiculous long hours, and nobody appreciated what I do. And I realized that no matter what I did, nobody would appreciate it. And I used to work ridiculous long hours, maybe not 100 hours as you usually do. I thought that was a lot. You literally beat the record there. I was doing maybe 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 at night, but I didn't have any time for me. Right? I said to myself, I went to university to get a degree so I can have my own sort of life. But it happens to be exactly the opposite. But I realized there must be something out there that is really, really better. But for me, what my epiphany moment is when I went to Africa, got back on a Thursday. I hated what I was doing already. I got back on a Thursday. I couldn't go to work on a Friday. I went to work on a Monday, and my manager then thought I arrived from Africa on a Saturday. I was lying by saying I was ill on a Friday. So what she did was basically she literally asked me to bring my flight ticket to prove that I arrived on a Thursday, right? I went home, got the ticket, showed her the ticket. Then she realized I did arrive on a Thursday, not on a Friday or Saturday. And she, Rahim, don't worry about it. I'm just trying to see. I was like, listen, this is it. This is end off, right? This is just too much for me, right? I don't deserve this kind of thing, okay? So I went out, told my colleague that I'm quitting my job. I'm literally, this is it. This is my epiphany moment. I'm not going back to this thing.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, Daniel, was when I was doing that, 3 things was going on in my life. One, I just got married in Africa, right? Brought my wife in this country. She can barely speak English. As soon as she arrived, she got pregnant, right? And I was living in a shared house, right? I was living in a HMO property, basically. So when I told my work colleagues this, they thought I was crazy. They were thinking, right, Rahim, how could you quit your job? Your wife just arrived in this country, barely speak English. She's pregnant, and you live in a shared house. You can even afford to get yourself a flat. I said to them, listen, enough is enough. Right? I have to literally get to that island and try to survive in that island, right? Yeah. So I saw the property investment journey as an island, right? I saw my workplace as the bridge. I'm gonna burn this bridge, get myself in that flipping boat, and sail to that island. And once I've got to that island, this is it. I have to survive in that island.
Yep.
Right? Believe you me or not, it went really tough, right? I never knew it was expensive to look after a woman and a baby until then, right? I thought it was kind of easy, right? It became really, really tough, man. I'm telling you now, baby arrived, and then obviously tenants don't like, shared houses. I don't know if you've lived in a shared, but I've lived in shared houses.
Of course,
and I did. All that sort of thing. So tenants don't like babies, obviously, crying in a shared house. And it was a 9-bedroom house as well, okay? So I had to move out, find another house, move to that house. Exactly the same thing happened. And it becomes really, really tough. We didn't have money, but my wife was really patient with me. She said, listen, I'm not here because of money. I'm here because I love you. So she then supported me that way. It went so tough. And by then I had a bit of savings, trying to buy a house in a place called Port Talbot, in a village, wrong place, long location. I will tell you about that property if you wanted me to tell you about that as well. So, but what happened was we ran out of money. We couldn't rent a flat because we can afford it. And the house we had then, we were sharing also. It's a 5-bed house. We moved from a 9-bed to a 5-bed, hoping that the tenants there would be okay with the baby. right? So that did not happen. But what I was doing before I start this was basically is to do what you just said there. When I put my mind to it, I want to go into properties because I put it off basically because I thought I needed lots of money then, right? So only to find exactly like yourself, I woke up in the morning, looked at my phone, I saw an ad about a strategy called rent to rent. I was thinking, really? I was told I need 50,000 plus to start my property business. How can this guy tell me that you don't need money to actually start investing? You can start as little as two or 3,000 pounds. So I said, okay, I look into it. It was too good for me to be true. Looked into it. Then I realized, okay, this might work. Then I jumped to a seminar, a free event. I saw how it works and I went to a paid event. Guess what I did then, Daniel? I literally focused all my energy on rent to rent for two reasons. Because I didn't have money to buy houses, right? And secondly, is because I knew if I focus on one strategy, I will do well and people will know me for that, right? So that's how I started my journey. Things went tough, obviously. The house I did, I was on renovating a house. I was a handyman, I was a laborer for that property. Then guess what? As soon as we finished that house, a couple of days later, we had a bad weather, snow fell, and then the house got so cold, the pipe got frozen. When the boiler kicked in, the pipes exploded, right? When the pipe exploded, my neighbors rang me at about 6:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. I was watching Champions League. He told me my house is flooded. I had to drive from Cardiff to actually Port Talbot. I bailed water out of that property until 4 in the morning, right? I thought to myself, maybe property thing is not me, right? But what I did was I never gave up. I continued thriving, tried to redo the house again. And then the next day I had shingles. I don't know if you know what shingles is. Shingles is caused by stress, right? So I took my laptop trying to apply for literally a job. I took it, I whacked it down. I said, no, I'll never go back working for people. Then what I did, I immerse myself, educate myself, get mentors, get coaches. And then I start closing 1, 2, 3 deals, 7 deals, 8 deals, 9 deals, 10 deals a month. Then I realized, okay, this is happening. That then transformed my life to the next level. The reason why I'm sharing this basically is to just ask you, what sort of strategy did you really started when you start your property investment journey, and why did you really went on and choose that strategy?
Well, for me, I started with rent to rent, just like yourself. Rent to rent was the only strategy I could start. Deal sourcing and rent to rent was the only strategy I could start because for me, how my deal sourcing actually started was I found a deal, rent to rent deal. The landlord was willing to work with me, but I didn't have the money to do the transaction. So I found someone else who basically would buy it off me. And I remember selling it for just, I think, under 1,800. And I was like, wow, did someone just give me 1,800 just for finding a deal and, making a few phone calls? And that blew my mind. And between 3 months, I sold another one that was now almost just under 4,000 plus I've generated. And that plus my credit card now formed the part that paid for my first rent-to-rent property deal. And that is just how I went from 1 deal to 2 to 3 to 4. And in our first year, eventually in 2018, I did about 20 deal, rent-to-rent deal, and I kept 8 for myself and I sold the remaining, and that gave me a lot of cash flow. Obviously, that allowed me quit my job as a Uber driver and aggressively quit, and also bought myself my dream cars at that time, which was a C320. So in 2018, so I bought myself a nice C-Class. And I'm like, yes, I'm just, regardless, because I was driving Uber for too long, not a really good car that I was driving. So I said, my car was my reward. So I bought the car and I quit the job. And 2019, I converted my first home that I lived in with my wife for 13 years into an investment property. So we literally moved out. We bought another house that I bought with a delayed completion. And from that, we moved out into that house. And then the house that we used to live in that we first used to own since 2006, we basically got that converted into a 6-bedroom luxury finished HMO. And that obviously helped me build to the point where we are now. So yes, it was rent to rent that I'd used, because at that time I didn't need more than £5,000 to £7,000 to get it started. I literally needed just a little bit of money, and that little bit of money came from my first deal sourcing plus my credit card, and then the first secured deal. The income was about £700 from right on the top of my head, and I said, if he's worked once, let it work twice, then three, then four. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I used that same mentality. I just kept doing what was working and what was working. And by the second year, we had 15 rent-to-rent properties in our portfolio. And we were now have a business that was generating about £200,000 a year gross income. So it just makes absolute sense to very quickly transition into the buy, refurbish, refinance strategy, because I was able to leverage on my rent-to-rent portfolio, my deal sourcing business, and very quickly I was able to use the leverage that I have from those businesses to scale into the buy, refurbish, finance. Well, as you know already, the deal sourcing strategy, you don't need any money at all to start. All you need to do is to find a deal to sell. For rent to rent, you need some money to secure the first deal. But then if you're a good deal sourcer, you source the deal as a deal sourcer, and then use that money that you've made, instead of jumping to a holiday, use to pay for your deal. And that was just exactly how I started.
Absolutely. Well done, bro. I think you've done really, really well. So I did the same thing. I partnered with my landlord. So I didn't have money then, basically. I partnered with my landlord where I used to live to get a rent to rent deal. He told me, Rahim, if someone can rent you their house and allow you to rent it out, I will fund all the money. I said, really? It took me 7 months to get my first deal, right? But I never gave up for one single day. So when I got the deal, I told him, listen, this is the deal. Are you going to fund this? Like, Rahim, if it's true, I'm going to fund it. We went to the landlord. The landlord confirmed I've closed the deal. And then he invested all the money in. I did the work. And then we were able to rent that property within five working days. Then I said to myself, well, this really works, actually. And then what I did basically is to rinse and repeat and immerse myself on that strategy. I did not do any strategy apart from that at that point, because I wanted to focus on it. I wanted that to be my brand at that point. So today, if you come to Cardiff, if you ask for rent to rent, most of the people will refer you to me, because that's what my brand was. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I then did is what you just did. All the revenue I make from that property business, because we're making about $250,000. I think at that time we were making about $500,000 revenue. Okay. So what I did, all the profit I make from those properties, I then reinvest it in 2 strategies: service accommodation to bulletproof my income, to literally get a cash machine, and then start investing in buy to let, and then eventually open my own estate agency. So that's really how I started. I always thought I needed money. Basically, I thought I needed ridiculous amount of money for me to start. So now then, Daniel, looking back then, someone who wants to start their property investment journey, who are really struggling, thinking, oh, they need money, or they don't really know where to start, using rent-to-rent strategy, what would you suggest or advise them to actually start with?
For me, I think one of the biggest part, right, of getting started in property, one thing I've learned, having had so many conversations these days, so many people I've spoken to in my entire property career in the last 6 years, I think the biggest starting point is knowing what you want. All right. And going all in for what you want, eliminating the noise that is surrounding you of so many property strategy. I think one of the biggest problems a lot of people have when they're starting their property journey, 1 minute you hear about self-accommodation, you want a little bit of that. 1 minute you hear about BRI, you want a little bit of that. 1 minute you hear land development, you want a little bit of that. Basically listed, and the list goes on and on. So stay laser focused on one thing. Do it for at least 12 months. Yeah. If it fails, it fails. At least you know you tried. It's 12 months. Yeah. If you win, obviously scale it the following year. So for me, one of the biggest challenges is that most times people get into the strategies, they don't understand the massive impact that the mindset really have to play in this. If your mindset is wrong, regardless of the strategy, you're not going to make money. That's just the truth. So I think it's quite important first for people to understand the ability to first understand you're coming into a business. I think it's not said enough that people understand that you're coming into a business, because in property, there is profit, there is losses. We are talking about £500,000 gross right now, but people don't understand that gross is not the net. So people are like, okay, oh, you just made £500,000, but we said gross, it's not net. So I made £500,000 turnover does not mean I'm £500,000 rich. It's just like when we call ourselves property millionaires, people think you have £7 million in your bank account, and then they start to hate you because you said £7 million. I think the most important thing is you need to first understand you're coming to one, it's a business. It's not just property investing. It's a business. There will be profit. There will be losses. And then stay laser focused in picking the strategy that you want to pick and go all in. That's what I would say.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Just to add on to that, Daniel, for me also, if you was to start your rent-to-rent property strategy, for me, basically, it's what you said earlier on, basically, where you said, if you make the profit, don't go buy a car and don't go holiday. So if you're thinking of starting property, my advice would be basically live below your means. That's the number one thing, right? If you live below your means, whatever you've earned after that, save it, put it, maybe 6 months, 3 months, if you want to do your own thing, save that, and never ever compete with friends and families that are trying to buy expensive things. And also look at your friends, look at your surrounding. Are the people you're hanging around with are the same sort of people that you want to hang around with? Are they thinking about investment? Are they thinking about businesses? Are they thinking about growing? Or are they thinking about going to parties, going to the next football game, going to the next event? And again, you have to know who these people are, because for us, what really helped me, basically, I used to live in that sort of surrounding when I was in London. I used to have 21 pairs of trainers, believe it or not. 21 pairs of trainers, because these are the sort of people I surround myself with. I'm just spending money, going on football games, going to clubs. I went to all the clubs in London. You name any club, I've been to it. I've been in it. I've used to spend all this money. But when I start thinking about myself, where I want to go in my future, I started segregating myself from these people. I started to differentiate myself with these people. I know it was difficult for me. It became emotion, to be honest, because I had to move away from London to where I am now. But it wasn't an easy decision to make, but I looked at the long run, I looked at the future. So what I did is I segregate myself. I had emotion, I cried over it. Some family members hated me, some friends hated me. I moved away. I came back here. What I did basically, I live below my means. I looked for a double room, right? Whatever I earn, I make sure I'm spending only 30% of my salary in whatever I have, okay? And save the rest. Within a few months, I was able to save lots of money that way. And I've always lived below my means, regardless what the situation is. Because what you end up realizing in the UK or in the world, people were making lots of money, but because they're living way over their means, they end up not saving anything or reinvesting anything. So if you're thinking about investing in properties, really, you have to be a good saver as well as consider living below your means. The second thing I want to add on to that also, Daniel, is basically, if you've got a deal, for example, what I just said, if you start making money in properties, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and rent a bigger house or a bigger flat or buy a house. Use that money and reinvest in the business. Reinvest in business, delay the gratification until you understand that, listen, yes, this is the time I need to do X, Y, and Z. As I said just now, when you started investing, you did not just go and buy a house, or you did not just go buy the most expensive car. You did not just go on holiday. You literally saved that money and then reinvested it. So I think if people can implement those sort of minor sort of strategies, I think it will take them a long way. What do you think?
100%, 100%. You know, I always say this all the time. You have to basically learn two things on your come up. On your come up, number one is being able to be the right level of energy and being able to obviously take the massive action required to sustain that energy and to you finally using that to create your wealth. Now, the microwave mentality, which is the instant gratification you talk about, is one of the biggest problems we have in the property sector, rather in the property industry, of strategies being taught here and there. Now, people get into wanting to be successful tomorrow. People get into wanting to be successful in a year's time, obviously because of what we hear on social media, what we listen to in social media. But the truth is that if you have a game plan, so for me, when I started it, I did Uber for a couple of years, about 2+ years before I transitioned to being an Uber driver. So transitioned to being a full-time property investor. Now, one thing that I discovered was on my journey was that I needed to be consistent no matter what. I needed to stay laser focused no matter what. And I needed to do one strategy first to succeed. Because when I started my journey, rent to rent all sounded like I was listening to a language I don't even have a name for. Rent to rent, what is rent to rent? It sounded like a fraud. Rent to rent, what is rent to rent? It sounded like it's, you name it. And everyone that I spoke to said, oh, that is a fraud. You're borrowing somebody's property, you're going to borrow it out again. It's subletted. How does that work? So you're borrowing somebody's property, you're going to rent it out again. Is that legal? That's illegal subletting. I said, no, subletting is illegal when all parties involved are unaware. But subletting is absolutely permitted as long as the landlord is aware, even the lender is aware of what you're doing with that property. So when you tell the landlord to obviously share permission with you to the lender, so what does that mean? The landlord goes to the lender to say, I'm renting my property to an HMO provider who's going to rent the room on a month-by-month basis, popularly called the managing agent. So you can approach it from different aspects. So for me, I think it's quite important that people need to understand that properties get rich for sure. But even right now in the current market, is the only people who are making so much money in property or will make money in property are those that are actively educating themselves, those that are actively learning, those that are actively investing in themselves. So by you investing in yourself, then 100%, why not? Success is definitely imminent.
Absolutely. I like that, bro. Educating yourself, investing in yourself, that's what gets you to the next level. That's what gets you to the next level growth. Talking about mindset, I don't know if you know a coach called Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins coached me. I remember him saying once to me, he said to me, like 90% of success is mindset.
Yes.
Right? Only 10% is the skill. He said, what does that mean? If you're into properties, make sure you surround yourself with people that are doing properties.
Yep.
Right. He said the best, even better thing also is to surround yourself with some people that are doing better than you're doing.
Yep.
Because you will be in that circle. Because he said your network is your net worth. So if you surround yourself with those people, you would eventually be able to get there, which is what actually helped me. So I'm not saying I don't speak to my friends back in London anymore. When I go there, I hang around with them. We go to restaurant, bars, and pub, whatever they want. We go and do it. But if I hadn't segregated myself with those people, I may have been in the same situation because some of them are still hanging around in the city center, shopping center, trying to shop girls and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was able to take myself away from that. So again, mindset, investing in yourself, and obviously, if you haven't got lots of money, think about rent to rent or deal sourcing.
Absolutely.
Property investing is the best investment ever for me personally. If you are doing it and have done multiple source of income stream, and you've just bought maybe another property, what would you say to someone who's about to start their investment journey? What is that one thing you would want to tell them to focus on to ensure that they actually execute the strategy that they want that they would like to execute?
Great, you asked me one thing, but I'll give you two.
Okay.
The first thing first is when you're thinking of even buying the home you want to live in with your wife and your children, I think the first thing first, don't even buy the house you want to live in before without getting yourself educated. We're now in information age. All these strategies that we're talking about, rent to rent, deal sourcing, buying refurbished, finance, and so on, the list goes on and on. They've been around for like 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Just that enough people were not talking about it. Again, social media has not been so strong. So a lot of people want to buy a house. The first thing they go to is a lettings agent. And then they go and find out about that information, about that property. So if you're looking to buy the house that you live in, get yourself educated first, because by getting yourself educated, you might even realize you don't need to buy the house that you live in for you and your family, but to buy an investment home first. So I'll give an example. I don't own where I live. I'm a tenant, but I own multiple properties. And why do I do that? And why people don't understand that is that the house that I live in is going to cost me what? 10, 15% deposit on the current market. So let's just say an average house in where I live at the moment is about £600,000. 15% of £600,000 is almost £100,000.
Yeah.
I can buy the same property, okay, and rent it out and get rental income. If I was to be more creative and that property generates me, I rent that property as an HMO, 6 tenants pay me rent at £500 times 6, that gives me more, £3,000. So instead of giving the bank maybe, for example, £1,500, which will probably be the mortgage. Instead, I'm generating an income for myself. So what does that mean? It means that The 1,500 I'm paying for the mortgage and running expenses of that property, the remaining 1,500 pounds I can actually go and use to pay the rent of where I live in. Now, 6 months time, I can do a further advance on that property, all right, and draw that money down. That's option one. Option two, I can actually use a bridging loan to buy the initial property, add some value to it, refinance it, all right, and then what? Use that refinance money to buy another house. Do it multiple times, 3, 4, 5, quadruple it, whichever number that you want to do it. So I'll give an example. I'm not looking to buy my own house after created a portfolio, or I'm currently creating a portfolio of 10 million pounds. So when I get to 10 million, then I'm now going to go and buy where I live. Absolutely. So in that case, I'm creating wealth. I'm creating an income first before actually creating liability, which is my tenants or which is my mortgage, that I'm paying. So this is exactly what I'm doing in the last 4 years now, that has very, very quickly skyrocketed my portfolio to reaching about 7 million, because I'm recycling the money of the house that I used to live in, plus investors finance to do refurbishments every now and then, to acquiring more assets, okay, that will eventually pay me or pay my house mortgage free. I just recently resigned my wife from her 25 years career.
Wow, well done.
That gave her about 60,000 pounds a year income. All right. Now, if I was to live in the house that I'm living in and I have about 100,000 pounds or 150,000 pounds tied down, and I'm servicing that debt every single month that I'm paying, yes, I'm going to only make money through capital appreciation. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that that would be an expenses, all right, rather than an income. So right now, I flipped it around and I have an income from multiple properties that is paying for our lifestyle, that's paying me a wage, that's paying my wife now a wage. And in a year or two time, I do a portfolio refinance, all right, a portfolio refinance, and I pull out as much as equity that I have, and I use that equity to even buy the house that I want to live in cash. I live mortgage free.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
I bang onto that middle. And so what we've been taught again at university, go to a university, get a degree, get married, buy a house, is absolute garbage, basically. I feel that, so I'm renting where I am in Cardiff myself, because I have the same idol. I have multiple properties, by the way. I have my own residential property I bought in West Bromwich, which basically is not doing me any good. So basically, you're absolutely right, because if you bought a house for you to live in, I know people may think it's an asset, but it's really a liability, because whether you're in it or not, you still pay that rent, okay? Whereas if you buy it as an investment property, it generates you money. Again, it generates you passive income. You don't have to actively get involved to actually even make that money. The way I structure my deals, basically, most of my deals, I would say 99% of them or 95% of them are no money left in deals. I look for properties I can add value to. Right? When I can add value to a property, for example, I just bought a hotel recently. I'm converting that into 15 apartments, right? Everybody was worried about that hotel. I saw what I could do from it, right? So I went there and I'm going to be adding value to that property. And what that means, basically, it would basically be a no money left in deal. I would be able to recycle all that money, because I'm converting that hotel into 15 apartments, which eventually would be valued individually, right? I add value that way. Even if I'm taking a rent-to-rent property deal, I don't go for the nice, shiny properties, right? I go for the one that the landlord has neglected, right? I go to the landlord, negotiate with the landlord, say, listen, I know your property is not as great as you think. I can take this property on, add value to it, and provide you with the guaranteed rent. I get two benefits from that. Number one, I got the discounted rent. Number two, I have rent-free period.
And number three, you get to have that property for at least a minimum of 5 years to 70.
Exactly. So these are the years. Yes, these are the ways I've been doing that. So buying your own residential home to live in, I know some people may think it's a good idea. For me personally, as an investor and yourself, I wouldn't advise you to do that. Educate yourself, invest in recurring income. The good thing about property is also why I love properties compared to stock and shares, Bitcoin. I know people are banging about this. Is for two reasons. When you buy a property, number one, it's a solid asset, right? You can walk past it, you can drive past it, you can inspect it, you can kiss it, you can do whatever you want with it, right? Yeah, and you can get your capital appreciation every year or so, right? And secondly, you've got your cash flow, right? That is there. A director will not do something silly online, and that would affect your property. Whereas if you buy stock and shares, If a director did direct on the company you've invested in, did anything silly, that's your shares down the drain, right? We've all seen what had happened during COVID. All the people that invested in the airline industry lost their money, right? Let's be honest. I know someone who lost about £1 million.
Yeah.
Right. The only thing he has left is the 3 properties I helped him bought.
Yeah.
Right. He lost it all. Right. But for us who had properties, right, when COVID hit, guess what the government did? The government helped our tenant to be able to pay us our rent.
Yeah, that happened in COVID. It happened in Cardiff, but in London, it didn't happen. The landlords didn't want to. The government didn't want to help us help our tenants pay their rent.
Is it
in London, in England? Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, they did help the tenants to pay rent. Right. Most of my 90%, 95% of my tenants were able to pay rent, and the remaining 5% we were able to put them in a payment plan. Yeah. So imagine if I'd invested that money in the travel industry or in the airline industry, I would have lost all that. Again, that's the reason why I love properties. Okay, you make money in 2 ways: cash flow and capital appreciation. And right. And I know, Daniel, you've been in absolutely amazing in your property investment journey. As I said, I really admire you. I've been watching you closely. And I just wanted to ask you also, how are you being able to scale your business to the next level, considering you're doing so many stuff in the property market industry?
I think one of the things is to scale, have a mindset of scaling. So one of the things I've been able to do in scaling is to build a team. So we started having team members in our team, and obviously it eats into your profit, but you can't do it by yourself. So yeah, so we started employing people. I think people has been one of the easiest way that I've been able to scale. And also it's also sometimes when you're getting people into your business, then it can also become very challenging as well, because people are not doing things exactly how you want them to do it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so people has been one of the easy way that have enabled me scale up. And 2, has also been, me expanding my mindset, of envisioning where I want to be 5 years time. Do I want to play small? Do I want to play big? Making that choice of that gap or who we want to become in the industry. Do we want to reckon with the top players in the industry, or do we want to reckon with the small players in the industry? And for me, I wanted to identify with the top players in the industry and have to go for it, regardless of wherever it's going to take me. It's going to take me knowledge, we're going to seek it. It's going to take me money, we're going to find it. It's going to take me deals, we're going to find people we're going to do deals with. It's going to take me trust, we're going to build it. It's going to take me creating investment opportunities, we're going to go and do it. So I think what has allowed me to scale is just all those little elements. And again, having a vision, it's always been a vision of where do we want to be. So like I just said to you at the beginning of this podcast, we want to get to 10 million pretty very quickly in assets, so that once we build that base of buy to let HMO portfolios to the region of 10 million, we can actually now say, okay, we want to do land developments. We want to build hotels like yourself and convert them into flats. As you know, the London market average property price where we invest is about 450 to 500 to 600. So very easily, if you take a 3-bedroom house that you bought for £500,000, you put £200,000 on it, very quickly that property can revalue for about £1 million. So creating £1 million property portfolio in London is very, very quick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me, those are the things that has allowed me scale, having a very clear vision of where I want to play in the industry, and also having people surround me to help me take the business to the next level. So I can take time now building connection. I can take time, networking with other people, being on a podcast like this, with other people as well, and so on. So those are the things that have been able to allow me scale very, very quickly.
Wow, well done for doing that. I guess you are very good in delegating and obviously getting rid of tasks that don't add value to you. So I think that's what takes your business to the next level.
Still mastering the act of delegating, still mastering it, because this is one of the biggest problems. When you build a business by yourself from scratch, it's always very difficult to let go.
Absolutely.
So difficult to let go. So I think my wife has just literally started like about 14 days ago, 1st of April, she started working with us. And instantly, And she's already saying, I know you've been delegating, but you need to delegate more. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And already, no whatever, like, she's actually coming as operations director in the company, which was one of the biggest void we had in the entire organization. Operation, making sure people are doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, when you're out there trying to do what you're trying to do, if there is nobody watching back,
No.
it's almost like you're digging your own grave. So I think she came in at the right time. And now I'm actually now seeing myself as the CEO, a business entrepreneur that I want to really be. So being able to allow things really happen the way it should happen right now, it's been absolutely amazing.
Wow, well done for doing that. I relate to that as well. When I started, my journey as well, I thought I can do everything, right? Only to realize I can't do it. I used to literally, if we have lock issue, I used to go and fix the lock. If the tenant checks out, I used to go and click, because I thought I was the best person to actually do it at that point.
Yeah.
I thought nobody can do this better than me. But then, you know, I understand it's very difficult to actually let go, you know,
Yeah.
but now I've let go, right? I know people will not do things exactly the way you want it, but everybody does things differently.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just learned to live with that now. Now I've got my estate agency, it's managed by someone else, right? I've got my renovation business managed by someone else. I've got my development business managed by someone else, and I then oversee all those things. And I got my education business, which is to give back. Also got someone managing it, but I literally oversee that. So again, by doing that, that then releases me to have my vision, concentrating my vision to actually focus on what we want to achieve. So I believe that is the best strategy, bro. And you're doing absolutely amazing, especially bringing your wife on board. She will be your eyes and ears.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great.
So what advice do you have for Black or ethnic minorities like ourselves that are thinking about investing in property, but they're thinking, oh, it's really white-dominated industry. They're really not sure whether this is the right sort of strategy?
I think first thing first, right? It's time that we start to literally destroy limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
I think limiting beliefs has been the biggest problem within the ethnic minority. I suffered it. I'm sure you have your own version story of it. I think it's time really to destroy limiting belief, because let's face fact, a lot of ethnic minority migrate, for example, into the UK every single day. Now, when these people do migrate, the most times it's very hard for you to see an ethnic minority person who is really out there at the top, sitting with the big boys, all right, doing the big things, and, you know, sitting at the table of power and what such not. So it's just like the other day I was having a conversation with someone. Someone said, it's almost impossible to play at the top league. I said, yes, it is very, very possible. If someone would have said many, many years ago that we will have we'll have a Sunak, who is now the Chancellor of the United Kingdom, who will say it's impossible, right? Mm. But today it's getting closer and closer and closer and closer. Now, if you are talented, right, the system will find you when the time comes. But if you focus on your limiting beliefs and you're not building your talent, how is the system going to pick you? Yeah. So I think for the ethnic minority, go out there and seek value. Go out there and have a voice on the value that you provide. And I think that will make a major shift, all right, within the ethnic minority. You know, you're doing massively well. I'm doing massively well. Again, come on, pay us, so that we can go and represent you, or pay us as well so that we can teach you the secrets. And it's the truth, let's be honest. Yeah. You know, if we start to support one another, you know, this is a white-dominated industry. Let the truth be told, right? Yeah. You know, I'm not trying to discriminate, but let the truth be told. Our own people always talk us down so much more. Mm-hmm. So I think it's time for our own people need to help us to grow. You know, so that we too can play on that top league, so that there can become more of us. Because if you and I can inspire so many, you know, many of us who are in the ethnic minority, and we start to go towards showing what we can provide, and I think the larger, majority will start to see reason with us, and obviously be able to support us even more. So I think the space is open for a lot of ethnic minorities to scale and grow. But the first thing first they have to do is to eliminate their self-doubts, limiting belief, know that it is possible, and stop going to the wrong person for the right advice. And I think that's what people need to do.
Absolutely, bro. You've just hit the nail on the head there. So I really appreciate that. So you're absolutely right. The property investment industry is more white dominated. But as I said to people, right, don't get that limiting belief thinking you cannot, because I had that problem when I started. Basically, I thought it's not for me. When I went to the first property event, I was the only black person there. I was thinking, whoa, this is not for me. Right. But the contrast I saw then, straight after that event, I went to a club, right? Because I used to love clubs, right? I went to this club. Almost 90% of the people there are black people. Right. And if you go to the toilet, black people doing all that. It's not like it's a bad thing to do those jobs. But I'm thinking, if you can invest in going to these clubs, if you can spend 5-6 hours in a club, why can't you just invest that time to start investing in your own self? Right. So again, I started thinking about it. I started saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm only going to do this because I want to prove people wrong. I've got so many racism things said to me as well, right? But I never, ever gave up in one day because someone said that to me. What I said to myself, I said, someone else's word is just an opinion. It won't be a fact onto me. So what I did basically, I continued doing that and then surrounding myself with successful people, now getting to know you, Daniel. So that really is what helps me to actually enable me to actually go out of my shell to tell myself that, listen, I can do this no matter what. And again, one of my commitment when I spoke to Tony Robbins was, I said to himself, I want to give back, right? I really wanted to give back in a way that I can get people like myself start being one of those people that you can see on TV, on social media, showing that they're doing really well in this industry. He said to me, the only thing you could do then is to educate them. Educate them. Then I went into this mission to actually start my property investment training. But before I started that also, I said, okay, I want to start this. What do I do to make myself better coach and a better trainer? So again, I went to other courses, educate myself, immerse myself. And now my property investment training business is doing really well. And we're impacting people like us a lot more because they feel so kind of related to us. They literally trust us and we're able to actually impact them in a positive way. And they're doing absolutely amazing. So you doing that from your end also gives me goosebumps because I know then we are literally all fighting against the same sort of limiting belief, basically. So I really like you doing that as well. So really appreciate that.
Great, thank you, man. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. So I know you've been doing deal sourcing and you're also a property investor, you're buying properties. So what do you reckon deal sourcers know and buy-to-let investor do not know?
Well, the thing is, right, the deal sources work for the investor, right? It's just like when you really look at the job of the lettings agent, the lettings agent's job is to work for the landlord, but the deal source's job is to work for the investor. However, somehow also working for the vendor or the seller of the property, whatever the case might be. So deal source's job really and truly, their roles is to find you great property deals that will give you great return on investments. And also good deal sources should also be able to pull in a team for you to deliver a project for a team of, builders, solicitors, accountants, mortgage brokers, party wall surveyors, and all the profession that you need. A good deal sourcer should actually not just see themselves. I actually teach people not to be just a deal sourcer, but to see yourself as a property consultant, because you can then create multiple streams of income from not just finding a good deal, not just providing a deal that gives great return on investment, but being able to be a one-stop solution to many issues. All right. Now, for the buy-to-let investor, the buy-to-let investors normally are uneducated. They just want to buy a house. And I say this all the time. Anyone can buy a house, but not anyone can build a portfolio of investment that can become passive, that can allow you build an empire, and so you can have time, freedom to do whatever you love. This year alone, I've already been on 2 10-day holidays. And being able to travel on 10 days holidays, for me, just because I am educated, because I've been in the industry, because I understand the nooks, the crowns of the business, and I can afford to travel, not having to worry whether there was a broken tap in my property or there was a broken electricity in my property. But most buy-to-let landlords are not able to really do that because at some point they self-manage. Even if they give it to the lettings agent is not able to make ultimate decision without seeking the approval of the actual property owner. So at the end of the day, most people say, I don't want to get involved in property because sometimes the landlord is very emotionally attached to their investment because they only ever was able to buy one property or two property. But when you see it as a business, you have to then eliminate emotions out of it. So the difference between a deal sourcer and a buy-to-let investor who is not doing well is because, for example, they're uneducated. And like I said from the get-go, if anyone is looking to even buy the house that they want to live in, go and invest as little as £500 on a one-day property seminar. Start that journey from there. Don't just buy property for the sake of, Rahim just bought a property, I want to buy one, or Daniel just bought a property, because we buy property with our lenses on. I call this my investors. This is the fourth eye that I used to see properly. So I buy properties with my 4 eyes open. In fact, my 6 eyes open, 4 in the front and 2 in the back. So what does that mean? You scrutinize every single processes. And if you're able to do that, then trust me, property is passive. Property income can be really, really passive, but it won't be passive except you get yourself educated. It won't be passive except you are long enough in the industry. And finally, the only way you can become successful and wealthy in property is to do property business on the unconventional way, creatively, and that you can create wealth.
Fantastic, bro. Really, 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 really love that. Now you've got a massive property portfolio then. That then drives me back to actually ask you this question. I wanted to ask you this earlier on. So how are you able to manage this property? I know buying properties, doing them up, renting them up, it's kind of a bit easy. So how are you being able to actually manage all your properties?
Funny enough, you asked me this question. So we now currently have a small team of just under 10 individuals, including myself. When we first started, I worked with a lot of virtual assistants who helped me in the business, but now we currently now have about 10, member of our team. About 6 or 7 of them are on PAYE, and actually we got more than that. We have some of our students who are now volunteering to work for me. So some of them work a day, 2 days, to learn the practical side of property investing. So I've got quite a large team now of people who surrounds me, from managing projects, from dealing with contracts, from dealing with, supplies, from taking inventories. And we have a permanent staff in-house, admin, permanent financial assistants, and the list goes on and on. So with this small team, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I said people. Without people, I would not be where I am. Although it swallows up the profit in the business, but trust me, as you scale through, the profit will come back because you needed to have a system or structure driven by human beings and people, all right? So that you can actually now go and now take more stock into the business.
Wow. So basically you have your own letting agency within the organization as well that look after the property, or you source that out on estate agent?
So we have an in-house management team. Within that structure, we have one property manager. Managing the property. We have one admin staff, 9 to 5. We have one financial assistant in-house, who does every single day bookkeeping, payment allocation, and what such not. We have operations manager, we have an operations director, we have a marketing and sales in-house team as well. So we have all these people. So within the structure, it flows around the management arm of the business. We have the educational arm of the business. We have the development arm of the business. We have the investment arm of the business. Hence why we are a property wealth corporation that deals, with so many different arms of the property investment strategy, just feeding back on the back of one and the other.
Fantastic. Really well done. Your enthusiasm and energy is what draws me to you when I saw you online. What really keeps you going without losing your energy and enthusiasm?
I'm hungry. It's very simple. I'm just a hungry guy.
Fantastic. You talked about hard time. I definitely inspired by someone who have overcome hard time. Do you mind sharing a time or event that was really hard time for you and how you overcame it?
The biggest part of my hard time was when I went through anxiety and depression, because there was a time in my life I had a situation in my life where for 2 years I had this mental situation that I could not even understand how it manifested, that I was gripped by fear that I was going to die.
Wow.
And I suffered that for 2 good years. For 2 good years, every evening at 4 o'clock in the evening, I always had this sort of down pressing, feeling low that I was just going to die at that moment. And I suffered that for 2 years. And the doctors could not even get me out of it. The only thing they could do was to give me tablets. And I drank those tablets and I was back again the next day, the same. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges that I went through in my life, where being a human and just having feeling that there's nothing that's exciting you anymore at a certain hour of the day, and your body and your spirit and your everything that you can hear in yourself telling you that you're dying this moment, I think was the worst thing that's ever been through my life. But I thank God that I believe in God, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and I got healed out of it, because medics couldn't heal me out of it, but only God was able to heal me out of it. I think for me, that was one of the biggest challenges I have ever had to face, although there were elements that I could basically trace to why it happened, but I can't really explain it. I think, yes, that was one of the biggest part of my entire journey that I faced. The other parts of maybe losing money, driving Uber, and other basic challenges I've gone through in my life, are also there. But one thing I come to realize is that tough time don't last. Only tough people do. So in order for you to be big, to win, to become somebody of value tomorrow, there will be challenges that every single one of us will face at every area of your life. But it's how much are you willing to use that negativity in your life, the downturn in your life, the challenges that faces you to becoming a successful person. How are you able to overcome them, turn them around, and become a person of light, so that those darkness of those times you've gone through disappears, and all of a sudden what you can see is light. So for me, that was one of the biggest challenges I ever gone through in my life.
Fantastic, bro. I really commend you for actually doing that. I really hope it continues that way. And again, seeking knowledge is what gets you to where you are. And I'm really delighted that you've been able to actually overcome that as well. Well done, because some people literally, this is the thing that we don't really see. Because it's not visible to actually naked eye, but it's good to know that you were able to come through this and literally thrive as well, and get you to where you are. Thank you for actually sharing that with us. So last question before we go to the quick fire round question. In the property investment world, business, social media, or society, I see this as a first world problem, overwhelm. Right? So many social media channels, everything getting thrown at us. People are buying houses left, right, and center, buying expensive cars, sharing lavish life online. And how do you deal with overwhelm? Because managing so many things like you do now, how can people really get rid of that overwhelm and stay focused in whatever that they're doing?
I think it's very important for you to know the true version of yourself, understanding yourself, the true version of yourself, understanding yourself. You need to do that first. And once you're able to know the true version of yourself and you know who you are, you need to develop an habit to block all the noises that surround you. It's very simple. Know who you are, understand yourself, and then block every other noises that surrounds you, and stay laser focused on what you want to do. And I think in knowing exactly, staying laser focused on what you want to do is to know what you want. Absolutely. You have to know what you want. You need to know what your needs are. But obviously your wants and your needs are two different things, but you need to align yourself with which one makes more sense to you. So for me, my want was, who do I want to really become in the society? Can the Queen of England know my name tomorrow? Can the Queen of England recognize me for my work tomorrow? Will England become proud of me? Then Nigeria can I make Nigerian proud? Regardless of whatever I've been through in my life, can I make Nigeria proud? And can I make my hometown, where I'm from, can I make that proud? Can my wife become proud of me? Now, the truth is, with what social medias are throwing at you every single day, people are no longer thinking, the decisions of whatever they're making on social media. Is he making your roots proud? Is he making your part proud? Is he making your immediate family proud? The truth is, yes, you can fake it till you make it, but at some point it will catch up on you, right? And that's the truth. Can you block the noise? Can you really block the noise that someone came to my Goldman area the other day. It's like, Daniel, you don't even show much as you do on social media. Why are you not showing much as you do? Why are you never showing the house that you live in? But you show it, but you don't show the inside. Why, Daniel? I'm like, it's not that time yet. It's gradual, all right? I will continue to tell all my successes, but it's gradual. All right. But I can't tell all in a day. I have so many stories inside of me that the world needs to hear, but I can't tell it all in a day. But the most important thing is you have to be laser focused. Nothing else appeals real but yourself. So stay true to yourself. Find someone that inspires you. Follow through that person, not many person. One of the things I love about my mentor, Grant Cardone, he says, when you process information from everyone, you become a public liability. And what does that mean? It means that you are a public facility being used by the public. So at the end of the day, what you really want to do is to be able to process one information from one person and follow that person and just follow them, see what they're doing and just follow through. If you have 20 mentors, you're going to be lost. Have one at a time. All right. If you're listening to 5 people, you're going to be lost. Find one person at a time and get advice for that one person.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I truly relates to that. Absolutely. One person advise you, go on with that, have an open mind and learn about that strategy. And then that will take you to the next level. Quick fire round question. What was the worst advice you remember receiving?
The worst advice I have ever remember receiving was, don't get into property, stay where you are. You're good as an Uber driver. And the guy who gave me that advice has paid me over £10,000 today to mentor him.
Fantastic. Best advice you remember receiving?
Best advice I ever received from my mom is, you can be anything you want to be. Aim for the moon, aim for the sky, you will get it. Wow. It's only going to take a matter of time.
Well done. Who is your favorite sports star?
Unfortunately, I don't really watch sports, so I may not be able to give that answer.
Okay. Looking back at your 18-year self, what would you have done differently?
Get a mentor.
Okay. What was your inspiration growing up?
Success.
Your biggest regret?
My biggest regret was never having a mentor in the right time. I should have always had a mentor all my life, but it is what it is now.
Right. Who is or was your role model growing up?
My role model growing up is my immediate elder brother.
Is there something you believe that lots of people disagree with?
I believe that a lot of people would disbelieve or disagree. Actually, let me use the word disagree with the unconventional way of doing things and creativity way of thinking. Okay. People have been wired to do things conventionally and do things uncreatively. And right now, if you want to become great, if you want to be named the great, you need to think outside of the box and make your own light shine.
Fantastic. Wow. What is the best book you've ever read or listened to?
The best book I ever read that actually transformed my life is actually Key Person of Influence by Daniel Presley.
Right. Does money change you?
I don't think money changed me because I'm still the same guy, but I do believe that money is a good thing to have.
Does money make you happy?
Absolutely, yes.
Is there something you used to strongly believe and you recently changed your mind on?
If there is something I used to believe and I recently changed my mind on.
Yeah.
Wow, you caught me on that one.
That's a good one. That's a good question, isn't it?
There's something I believe that changed my mind on. Yeah. No, point blank, no.
Okay.
You got me on that one.
Okay, I will let go of that one. Is there something in the world you fundamentally think is wrong and you would like it to change, and you would like to get it changed?
I think creativity needs to be spoken about more often, and I think creativity needs to become a subject being taught in today's world.
Okay. This podcast is called Property Investment Blueprint. What does Property Investment Blueprint means to you?
For me, Property Blueprint is like a roadmap. If I'm coming to see you, I'm driving all the way from Cardiff. By the way, I'll be in Cardiff in end of this April, so I should see you.
Yeah, come on, bro. You are welcome.
Great. So it's just like jumping in a car without your sat nav, and I'm driving to Cardiff for the first time. Without a roadmap, I would end up going to Scotland. So for me, your podcast represents a simple blueprint. A blueprint means a roadmap. A roadmap means your sat nav. Your sat nav means it takes you to your destination.
Wow, well done. Final one. If there was only one person you'd love me to interview, who would that person be and why?
I would like you to interview my mentor, Grant Cardone.
Okay, I'll try. I know someone who knows him. One of my friends invited him in Wales. So I'll see if I can get hold of him. Right. Anybody in the UK you would recommend and why?
Anybody I would like you to recommend. A lot of names on my head. Fortunately, I don't know who the audience will be. And I mentioned one name and said, you mentioned the wrong one. So I will keep that as a reserve.
No, that was a good one, actually. I'm working on that because you're the second person who's actually asked me to actually interview him from my podcast. And yeah, I'm working on it. I know someone who knows him as I've just told you. But yeah, I'll try to make sure I get him on this podcast so I can interview him so that we can learn a lot from him as well. Okay. Or you might recommend him to me, actually, if you got in contact with him.
I am working really hard at the moment to get him on my podcast as well. Obviously, it's not very easy to get Grant.
Yeah, go for it, bro. Go for it. So yeah, what an amazing way to actually end this. And that was great special moment to me. Thank you. Where should we follow you and where are you hanging out in social media if someone wants to contact you?
So at the moment, we have built a very, very massive audience and up and growing on Instagram and LinkedIn. I've been getting a lot of momentum from those two social media handles at the moment. So for anyone that wants to reach out to me, please go to Instagram, search Dr. Daniel Moses, Dr. Moses on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'll be in your face.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well done. So, and I know you also said you have your educational business as well. For people who've listened to this podcast who wanted to jump onto your mentorship or your educational business, where are the best places for them to be able to contact you on?
One thing I would say for anyone who will be interested in me coaching, mentoring them, one thing I always say is before even thinking about me coaching or mentoring you, I always say, go and listen to a lot of episodes on my podcast that I've interviewed a lot of people. Get to know me. Don't just come and invest in me for the sake of looking for a mentor. Get to know me because I want to work with people that knows me and people who relate to me and people who I can relate to. And for me, that is one of the biggest things. So if you want me to mentor you, if you want me to coach you, I would highly recommend you go and find the Wealth and Business podcast on Spotify, on Apple Music, and just get yourself inspired. And if you then feel you're connected, there are multiple links on all our handles under the Spotify or Apple. Just click on it, get yourself registered to a free consultation, and we'll be there to speak to you to see if we're the right fit and also if you're the right fit for us.
This have been absolutely amazing, bro. Thank you for sharing your life passion with us. I love you, bro. I love what you stand for. I'm going to repeat that again. And I really, really appreciate you being in the podcast. Thank you so much for actually being a guest in Property Investment Blueprint.
Thank you so much, my brother, my friend. Same love goes across from London to Cardiff to you and yours. It's been an absolute pleasure for having me on your podcast.
All right. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you.